What would you do differently
Well,
than is being done now?
It's over 10%, and in fact, it could be closer to 17 or 18 when you consider those who have kind of given up and not applying for unemployment benefits. So it's bad. It's really bad. And then, of course, Fed Chair Bernanke announced that there are still weak job prospects for the very short term and probably long term, and that's an uncomfortable place for our country to be. What we need to do is shift gears and really head in another direction, because what we're doing right now with the feds, it's not working. We need to cut taxes on the job creators. This is all about jobs, creating jobs. We have to ramp up industry here in America and, of course, reduce the federal debt. Quit piling on and growing more. But those common sense solutions there, especially with the cutting taxes on the job creators, that's not even being discussed. In fact, increased taxes is the direction it sounds like Obama wants to go.
You mean that you don't even hear it being discussed on the Republican side or within the administration?
Within the administration, and as it is discussed on the Republican side, Republicans need to be bolder about it. Independents need to be bolder about that solution that has got to be considered and plugged in. This is the only solution that will be successful. We need to rehash some history that proves its success. Let's go back to what Reagan did in the early 80s and stay committed to those common sense free market principles that work. He faced a tougher recession than what we're facing today. He cut those taxes, ramped up industry, and we pulled out of that recession. We need to revisit that.
Why do you think this administration is ignoring that blueprint? What is their ultimate objective here? They're sitting in the middle of abject failure of their number one stated goal, and that's job creation. So what are they really trying to do here, do you think?
Well, you wonder because history proves what will work, and you wonder if they're realizing that, and if it's just perhaps a stubbornness at this point, that they are so committed to going down this road of growing government and interjecting the Fed's control in the private sector more and more, which will prove to be more failure. I don't know if it's some obstinate thinking that they're engaged in right now, or if they truly just do not believe what the free market, free enterprise, economic solutions are that built up this country.
You think this is going to be a major issue in the congressional elections in 2010? And if so, how would you advise Republicans to pursue it?
It better be a major issue, absolutely. Of course, national security will be too, and hopefully we'll talk a little bit about some of the decisions being made in that arena that cause so many of us concern. But yeah, the economy, that's what it's going to be, because it's all about jobs. It's all about Americans who are hurting right now and what those solutions are that are so obvious, so common sense, that need to be plugged in. And those are Republican, they're common sense conservative principles that we just need to apply.
New York 23 is being portrayed as a race in which you and I, because we supposedly went up there, handpicked Doug Hoffman. He supposedly lost, even though that they still haven't finished counting the votes. It's 2 weeks. This is not Chicago. They haven't finished counting the votes. He says he wishes he could unconcede now, but they're trying to diminish conservatism and I think in the process intimidate the Republican Party from going in that direction. What's your read on New York 23?
I think that this is exciting. It's encouraging, no matter the outcome, even with this recount of some of those, uncounted ballots. It's exciting that the race is going to be even closer, and it's a clearer and clearer picture that what Americans are seeking, even in a district there in New York, they are seeking common sense, conservative solutions to all the challenges that we're facing. I'm glad to see this.
So the positive thing there is that the Republican Party was rebuffed in nominating essentially a rhino, a liberal.
Well, I think what you saw there is, and of course it's not just the Republican machine, it's the Democrat machine too. You know, if you're not the anointed one within the machine, sometimes you have a much tougher road to hoe, and that's what Hoffman faced. He was the underdog. I think great timing for him, though, to stand strong on his conservative credentials and come out of nowhere and prove that an American without that resume, without that machine backing, can truly make a difference in an election like this.
Well, now, you use the term, if you're not the anointed one by the party machine, you're the underdog and you have a tough road to hoe. Based on things that I read, the Republican establishment would not anoint you to be a nominee of their party, should you choose to go that way. I'm not asking you the question because I know you're not going to answer and give away what your plans are in 2012. You consider yourself one of these unanointed ones within your own party?
Well, to some in both parties, politics is more of a business. It's not so much a commitment to an agenda or a person or values or issues. It's more of a business. And no, I'm not a part of that. So if they're going to keep using that way of thinking in their decisions on who they anoint, who they will support or not, then no, I'll never be a part of that. But hopefully we're going to see a shift with independents, with the Republican Party and the Democrat Party, and we're going to get back to what the issues are, what really matters, and then hopefully we're going to go from there, which will be much fairer to the electorate.
All right, independents/third party. A lot of people mistakenly, in my view, are looking at New York 23 as evidence that, see, a third party could actually do well, but that's not a good example because there was no primary there. As you said, the party bosses chose Didi Scazafava on the Republican side and the Democrat. Had there been a primary, New York 23 would not have been constituted as it was. So what are your thoughts now on the viability of a third party if the Republican Party can't be brought around?
You know, to be brutally honest, I think that it's a bit naive when you talk about the pragmatism that has to be applied in America's political system, and we are a two-party system, and ideally, sure, a third party or an independent party would be able to soar and thrive and put candidates forth and have them elected, but I don't think America is ready for that. I think that it is, granted, it's quite conventional and traditional, but in a good way that we have our two parties, and I think that that's what will remain. And I say that, though, acknowledging that I'm not an obsessive partisan. I understand why good people, like my own husband, refuse to register in a party. Todd's not a Republican, and yet he's got more common sense conservatism than a whole lot of Republicans that I know, because he is one who sees the idiosyncrasies of the characters within the machine, and it frustrates him, along with a whole lot of other Americans who choose to be independent. But in answer to your question, I don't think that the third-party movement will be what's necessary to usher in some common-sense conservative ideals.
Now, you mentioned independents when we need to get independents. Independents right now are abandoning the Democrat Party. They did so in New Jersey. They did so in Virginia. And the White House pretty much proves this because the White House was out prior to the election saying, Republican Party identification in polls is as low as it's ever been. Therefore, for Republicans to win these races, there had to be independents moving in their direction. Now, I know you're not in politics now, but you have political experience. I'm not in politics. I've never gone out and gotten votes. I've always been curious about the professional politicians' insistence that we go out and get independents. Sure, you want to show up the base, but with these magical, whatever it is, 20% of people that are not identified or do not self-identify themselves with either party, what's the way to get them?
I think just naturally independents are going to gravitate towards that Republican agenda and Republican platform because the planks in our platform are the strongest to build a healthy America. We're all about cutting taxes and shrinking government and respecting the inherent rights of the individual and strengthening families and respecting life and equality. You have to shake your head and say, who wouldn't